We are in for such an interesting holiday season. Mercury will be retrograde on Christmas and New Year's Eve. It goes retrograde on December 12th. So definitely write that down, have that in your heart, and it'll be retrograde through January 1st. And I think because this retrograde is happening, it starts just with a new moon and it has that energy of a new moon. All my spidey senses are going off. I mean, like a new moon, and then through January 1st, I feel like there's a little bit more to this than we're seeing. So, in this video, I'm sharing 3 insights that align specifically with this Mercury retrograde, and the other planetary alignments are happening during this time. Insight number 1: who you learn from is your choice. Look, I know that it may feel like in this universe we get stuck with crappy bosses, crappy teachers, crappy mentors, crappy parents, crappy whatever. And I have to tell you that the real truth is this: you can learn from absolutely anyone. And when I say it's your choice who you want to learn from, what I'm saying is that it's the soul's choice on every level to be able to extract the good from a bad scenario just as much as the good from the good scenario, if that makes sense. As crazy as like this isn't self-development. I'm talking about soul development. It's about being able to go through things in life in such a way that you are able still to grow from every experience. And I want to share my own story. So like when I was younger and I was working in management for the first time, brand new, I was struggling to just even get people to respect me, to listen to me. A very normal problem when you're starting off, right? And at that time, I was under the influence of a leader that just didn't match my style in any way, like at all. And this actually, ironically, made her such a pivotal teacher for me on my path. And I wrote about this in my book. I'll put it up here, Claiming Your Power through Astrology, because back then I had made this horrible mistake, which if you ever manage in retail, like don't hire 20 holiday employees and try to incentivize them by getting a job at the end of the season. It is all in all a really bad idea. I had my heart in it, but it was a bad idea. As trust me, you don't want 20 seasonal people who are supposed to only be there for a little bit of time expecting to stay on full time and then you having to like let them go essentially when that wasn't even what the job was about in the first place. So I was in this really, really difficult situation. I was being led by someone I didn't really necessarily agree with. And she told me at the end of the season that I had to divide these employees into 2 groups. One was a group that I would hire, and another was a group that I would fire. Obviously, it didn't align with me, like my true self. And I told her, I was like, why can't I just speak with them individually? And she told me that I didn't have enough time and that if I was to be successful, I would have to be thinking more strategically. As a young, impressionable youth, like I was in my early 20s, I assumed I was wrong and she was right, and it's unfortunate, right? Like I do consider her one of those teachers that kind of put me in positions where I went against my own moral code, but she didn't force me, right? Like I followed her advice. There was other options for me. I trusted her over myself, and I fired a group of people sitting in a group together. It was like one of the worst moments, the lowest moments, my most moment that I've had to a lot of do work with myself around. And I remember after that going to the bathroom and just vomiting from it. Um, it didn't feel good, and it's like in these moments, we always have to decide, are we going to learn from it or are we going to let it defeat us? I could have let that moment decide that I wasn't cut out for management, but I knew I was. I really wanted to manage just differently. And I never forget, under her tutelage, there was this really powerful moment where we were like in the stockroom and she sat me down. She's like, they are never going to follow you if they don't fear you. And I remember something in me clicking and like coming alive in that moment and being like, no, that's your journey, not mine. And I, from that moment, pledged never to lead with fear. Um, she made me stronger, not by telling me who to be, but by showing me who I didn't want to be. So before we jump into Insight 2, I wanted to just let you know that I am going to be sharing weekly forecasts. I'm so excited about doing this and getting all this astro wisdom out into the world. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to turn on the notification bells. YouTube will then pop up my videos into your feed and you will know when I put these out there to the universe. And on to insight number 2. Let me get a sip of tea. It is time to give 2023 meaning and 2024 purpose. So retrogrades are about a switch in the direction of energy that it's flowing. So if we're able to flow and go with these changes, it's kind of like a surfer. We ride the waves. If we refuse to switch and move with the changes, the waves tend to knock us over. We feel like we can't keep our head above water, and it's almost like we just can't keep up with our own lives. Right now, as we're switching collective years and we're leaving behind 2023, the most important thing before you plan 2024 is to give 2023 purpose and meaning and to allow it to crystallize, right? I teach this a lot in my Sync with the Moon class with Uncommon Goods. It's this idea that just as the moon waxes and wanes and grows light and then releases light, we also need to do the same thing. So I want you to think about the changes and the progressions, maybe the events, some of the decisions you made in 2023, kind of declare something for that year, like crystallize it, give it purpose. Maybe 2023 was the year of self-trust. 2023 was the year you started to eat sushi. 2023 was the year you went on the airplane for the first time. 2023 was when you quit the job and started your own business. 2023 is when you started dating again. Whatever it is, there has to be some sort of crystallization for 2023 before 2024 gains its clarity. So make sure that you're doing that, and you're doing that in this little time portal that we're coming into. Insight number 3, just stop worrying. This Mercury retrograde goes from Capricorn, the sign of the entrepreneur, backwards into Sagittarius, the sign of the philosopher. I just want to say, stop worrying about who you are. Just cut it out. Just cut it out. I know. The New Age universe has pushed this idea of like soul purpose and figuring everything out, needing to know who you are, and that like, I just want to say, none of that is something you catch. You're never going to catch up with who you are because you're always evolving. You're never going to catch your soul purpose once and forever because it's always changing. And so, what I would like to say is that there's just as much purpose in all the moments in time. There's much meaning to me going to pick out the Christmas tree with my kids and hanging my ornaments and listening to Christmas music and laughing to stories as there is in me cooking a meal that's nutritious for me, as in me just taking a nap in the middle of the day for no reason, or laying in my hammock with the sun on me, or calling up an old friend. Seek to be purposeful, and you will no longer need to worry about this elusive idea of capturing who you are as if you could have lost yourself in the first place.